Oh. Okay. Okay, and we are off to the races. So welcome everyone to the Eclipses webinar. I'm so excited about this. I hope I haven't oversold it. I was talking about on my Instagram how great it was going to be because I think eclipses are just absolutely fascinating. So if everyone could go on mute for now, and then we'll have, if you have a question, you can either come off mute and let me know, or type it in the chat. And my sister Victoria is assisting today, and she will interrupt me when it's necessary. But I'll stop at times, yeah, to when it's a good time to stop. Okay, to ask questions. But let's get going. Okay. Okay, so let me know if you can see my screen, Vicki.
Yes, we can see the slide.
Okay. And just so everybody knows, the link, if you are so inspired to join myself and Yvonne, Samantha, Kaylin, Claire, Lori, Cynthia, Karen, Patricia, and Kim, people who have signed up so far for Moon Mastery. While I'm talking, you can just click the link and go sign up. It starts on May 2nd. But today we're talking about the eclipses, and I like to call them harbingers of change, but I wrote signals here in case harbingers is not a word that connects with everyone. But with eclipses, the channel changes and we can't go back. We move somewhere into the future. Yes. So I am Celeste Brooks. I'm an astrologer, coach, and intuitive, and the founder of the Moon Mastery Program, a tool for self-discovery and manifesting with more ease. So about my astrological signature, I am a Taurus sun, giving me a practical and grounded approach. An Aries moon, I really like to initiate and encourage action. Plus, I like to have fun with whatever I'm doing. I don't care if it's at work. And I'm a Cancer rising, so bringing a consultative nature to my readings and working with clients or students and what have you. And I like to create a nurturing environment. Now, I also have 5 planets in the 11th house of groups and community. And so I like to build community. So as well with everything I do, I love to build community. So I am an avid reader. I have Mars and Venus in Gemini. I've had my nose in a book since I was a young child. That Taurus, I have a Taurus stellium, meaning 3 planets there. So I enjoy food and am a Yelp elite. So I used to like to go out for dining before the pandemic, and I guess it'll come back again. And yeah, I'm a flat-faced dog lover. So my background is in science. I have a degree in integrative biology and my MBA, and I have over 20 years at Fortune 500 companies in my past in key sales, marketing, and business development roles, both an individual contributor as well as in management and leadership. And I've completed 2 advanced astrology programs with Deborah Silverman and Rebecca Gordon. And currently I've started teaching her level 1 for Deborah Silverman, and I'm interning to teach level 2. And I was just telling Laura, I have signed up for the Horary program. It's a 20-week astrology program taught by Deb Goulding. So I'm going to be adding that to the list of my skills, because I am a full-fledged addict. Yes. So this is Sweet Pea and Debo. They are my two babies. Sweet Pea is a 13-year-old pug dog who enjoys sleeping and bothering me about taking a nap in the actual bed. And then when he goes in the bed and I'm not ready for bed, then he starts barking at me from the other room. And Debo is a 5-year-old bulldog puggle mix who has me wrapped around his finger. He had lost 8 pounds since he moved in with me. And when him looking at me like that for every time I'm near the kitchen wanting a treat, he went to the vet the other day and he gained back a pound. So we are going to work on that. Yes. So there is nothing permanent except change. So I love this quote by Heraclitus, the Greek philosopher, and it is perfect for discussing the eclipses because they do bring change. So we're going to talk about what they are, the bigger picture, what they mean for you, and then I'm going to introduce Moon Mastery 101 again. So some people are hearing this for the third time, but one of the big reasons of doing these seminars is so that people can see my teaching style and decide if they want to come join and learn with me during this program. And then we'll pull up participants charts at the end. And if you so choose, you can come up and we'll talk about what the eclipses mean in your chart. And I'll do as many as I can. But I'm going to try to keep the talk as short as possible so we can spend more time on charts. Yes. So this is a living sky. So I always like to pull the chart for the event of because it speaks to, you know, what's going on. And the thing that jumped out at me about this chart today is that the sun is at 29 degrees of Aries. So this is the last degree of the sign of Aries. We've been in Aries season, has given us all this fire energy to move things going. And tomorrow we're having a big change in energy when we start Taurus season. So we'll go from fire to earth. And you may notice a shift because Mercury is going to move the same day into Taurus. So it's going to be like a bum, bum, bum. You may feel like you kind of got dropped off a ledge depending on how sensitive you are to these energies. But yes, change is here in that way as well. So I'm just going to overview what eclipses actually are from an astronomical perspective. I mean, if you want to go really deep about this, you can go on to Google, but I wanted to give just the basics of what they are. So a solar eclipse is when both of them, the sun, earth, and moon line up in a line. And with a solar eclipse, the moon comes between the earth and the sun and casts a shadow onto the earth and essentially blocks the light from the sun. So if you can imagine the ancients thousands of years ago were going about doing their business in the middle of the day and the sun's light went out at certain points, you know, certain places. And they were left in the dark for minutes and then it came back. So these were very, very feared events that people associated with, you know, bad things potentially coming, but eclipses also bring good things, we know, but they were very feared. Yeah. And the astronomy is with this is that the north and south node are within 18 degrees of this new moon, this powerful new moon, which is a new moon times 10, and the energy is big. From our perspective here on Earth, and when we're talking about astrology, I practice Western astrology, we're always looking at it from an Earth-centered perspective because the ancients did not realize that we moved around the sun. They thought the sun moved around us and the moon moved around us. And from our perspective, they look to be about the same size. So at a lunar eclipse, as the Earth moves between the moon and the sun, And it only happens at full moons when the moon and the sun are on opposite sides of the earth. It's a really powerful full moon. It's not as visually stunning as the solar eclipse because they happen at night. If you're at a place where the moon is above the horizon, it may look like the moon goes out for, it could be up to a couple of hours, but it also could have like a red glow. It could look like a blood red moon, depending on, there are different types of eclipses. There's partial or total for lunar, and partial or total or annular for solar. I'm not getting into that. You can Google that if you're interested in that. But the main point is with either of these, like there's a channel change. It cuts off the signal between the sun or the moon and the earth, and we move on. So for the lunar eclipses, the north node or south node are within 12 degrees of the full moon. Yeah, so I had a north node webinar on Thursday where I really went into the nodes. If you missed it, you can go watch the recording on YouTube. But just briefly to explain what the lunar nodes are, they are points. So they're not actual physical bodies. They are 2 points where the moon's orbit intercepts the ecliptic. And this is the ecliptic, this yellow line, which is the sun's apparent path around the earth based on our perspective. And then the moon has its own path, which is off about 5 degrees from the sun. So obviously they're at different places away from us, so they never bump into each other. But anyway, they cross in 2 places. So the ascending, where they cross in the ascending, is the north node, and the descending is the south node. Yes. And a node means the knot. So symbolically, they tie the moon to the earth. They tie our emotional body, the moon, to the earth. And the sun crosses these nodes twice a year. So once at the north and once at the south. And those are the triggers for eclipse season, when the sun crosses the nodes. So the solar eclipses are the ones that initiate the cycles, and the lunar eclipses, I view them as like they happen because we've had a solar eclipse, and we know that within 2 weeks of a solar eclipse on either side, there could be a lunar eclipse. Yeah. And just as a reminder, we aim towards the north node for where we're going to Dharma in order to realize our proper path. And we want to move away from the south node that speaks to the shadow tendencies of that sign. And we also do this as a collective. So right now, the north node is in Gemini, the south node is in Sagittarius. This is the axis of the intellect, the big mind, little mind axis. And that's where they are now. And it gives us an extended period as a collective to work with these stories. So the nodes stay in the same sign for about 19 months, and they always move backwards. So on your chart, you will either see, probably depending what software you use, but a little RX or an R, or it's in red where you're around the north and south node. They move backwards, or you'll see an S, which means they stationed, which means they were essentially appeared to be like they were stopped. And they move about 3 minutes per day. So they will stay at the same degree for a while. Yeah. So what are eclipses? I already talked about how they were feared and considered great times of change, and they are times of change, but how much the change is in your life depends on your chart activation, on how you'll be impacted. So if you would look at your natal chart and you look at where the degree is of the eclipse, depending how close it is to one of your planets or points will depend on how much you'll be impacted potentially. Yeah. And so I already mentioned we have 2 eclipse seasons annually. They last around 36 days. This is the physics of when the nodes are within 18 degrees of either the sun or 12 degrees of a full moon. But the impact of them can last for months. So we go into eclipse season as soon as the nodes are in range of the sun. And eclipse season is about, we can even feel it before we get to it. It's about 6 weeks before, and then the energy can last. Typically, you'll see something in your life up to 3 months after. It can be 6 months after. Some astrologers say they can last for a whole year before, or 6 months before or after the actual eclipse. So it's big energy, and there's debate on how long it lasts is the key. Now, there are 2 different types of families that are associated with these events. So the Saros series is a group of eclipses that last for about 1,300 years, and it repeat every 18 years and 9 to 11 days. So they start at the North Pole and like go down to the South Pole over 1,300 years. And each one, 18 years later, is like 10 degrees further away by zodiac sign. Now, if you want to learn more about this, you can Google it. And I have a resource, Bernadette Brady. She talks about this in her book, The Eagle and the Lark, and that'll be at the end. But yeah, that's the basics. You just need to know that they repeat approximately every 18 years. And the original chart of the first one, they can start at the North or the South Pole. But the first one has a birth chart that gives it a signature that speaks to all of the ones that come after it. Now, the Metonic cycle happens for every 75 to 96 years. And this is when an eclipse occurs at the exact same degree. And this repeats about every 19 years. So, this is more like a human being's lifetime. So you will see your chart being activated in the same degree every 19 years. And you may see echoes. It's not going to be exact. It doesn't repeat exactly the same, but it will rhyme. There will be something to the story of where it happens in your chart that it will be similar, of some kind of essence to the one before it. So big events coincide with eclipses. So I think this is the perfect example, since no matter where you are in the world, you were affected by COVID-19. So they can happen, the big events can happen right before the eclipses or after the eclipses, but COVID-19 was reported right in the middle of eclipse season. So on December 31st was when the first news report came out that about this virus from China. The news came out from China, and then there was a solar eclipse 4 days beforehand. And then there was a North Node lunar eclipse within a couple of weeks afterwards. So this is the chart for the moment that it was reported. I think something that speaks to what happened is that the ascendant is in the fixed Leo sign, which means a light was shined on this. The Saturn and Pluto, which speaks to what happened, essentially in Capricorn, it affected old people, Saturn, Capricorn, older people the most. Pluto, death. It caused death of the old people. Saturn and Pluto came together this should say January, apologies, came together on January 12th of 2020. And it symbolized that something big was going to happen because it happened at a world point of 22.5 Capricorn that was going to affect the entire world, where structures were going to be transformed and potentially obliterated, and that governments and would be involved as well. So I think that's very interesting. Also, Pisces, the sign, and Neptune, we think of Neptune and Pisces can be one of the symbols of disease in the 8th house of death. Chiron's here, Uranus about big change at the top of the world. So the chart really speaks to when it was announced about what it meant.
Wow, Celeste, and it's interesting that Pluto Saturn conjunction was in the 6th house of health too, right? Oh my God, I just saw it and I'm like, what?
Yes, yeah, in the 6th house of health, exactly. Yeah, so I mean, astrology can be so literal. It's incredible. And look, Mars in Scorpio as well speaks to death as well.
And to how we transform our houses, like that part of the chart. Wow, I'm just right now. I hadn't seen that chart.
Yeah, it's incredible. Incredible. Yeah. So as a collective, we are moving towards, or we should be moving towards, North Node and Gemini themes. So the North Node is in Gemini and the South Node is in Sagittarius from May 5th, 2020 through January 18th, 2022. So it gives us 19 months to work with these energies. So this little horseshoe symbolizes the North Node. This is the sign of Gemini, and this upside down one, South Node, this is Sagittarius. So when I think Gemini, Sagittarius, it's like the little mind, I think. Gemini, the big mind, I seek bigger stories, Sagittarius. So we are called to focus on the high road of Gemini, gathering the facts, not just relying on dogmatic or philosophies that we have been told that they're the way they are. Honoring others' opinions and not being self-righteous, admitting when we're wrong, listening intently is a wonderful thing we can do with this North Node and Gemini energy in our own lives. I highly recommend journaling practices for people, to get your thoughts onto paper. And it's really a good time to invest in new skills for yourself as the world has changed. Discarding these, self-righteousness and preaching our own philosophies. Don't drink the Kool-Aid, to me, really speaks to releasing the shadow side of Sagittarius. Decolonize your mind. Think differently about things you've known for your whole life. And yeah, give up on changing people is a good thing to do. Now, mundane astrology speaks to astrology of worldly events. And you can see from this list here, these things have come into focus over the last, since the North Node went into Gemini and the South Node went into Sagittarius. I don't know if I said they're always exactly opposite, same degree, exactly opposite each other. Yeah, so the post office in the United States, for those of us in the US, it was a big deal last year. This LaJoy person was brought in to cripple the post office so that people couldn't vote by mail. And it became it became to light, and there were all sorts of hearings about it and whatnot. Education has changed. Children have not been able to go to school because of the pandemic, and they're doing stuff on Zoom, and it's caused this massive change. And you're seeing more and more things go online, and they're not all going to come back. The news speaks to Gemini, the news having the right facts versus clouding the news, fake news versus the real news. No matter what kind of news you listen to, there is a spin and a story and a approach that particular organization takes. So I think people are more being aware of that as well, and trying to get to the actual facts and not just the way it's being presented. Transportation is a big thing. And 9/11 was around the time of the last time they were in Gemini and Sagittarius. And you will see constriction of the South Node themes. So air travel back in 9/11, that all came to a halt for a while, and a lot of change around it. And we're seeing that now again with the pandemic, that air travel has been very much impacted. Science has been on the forefront, and fights over science and what we're doing, what's being recommended versus what people want to do. The law, the police is a big deal with Sagittarius. Sagittarius rules the law and police in mundane astrology, and we'll talk about that right now. So, go ahead.
Quick question in the chat.
Yes.
What is the difference between a North Node lunar eclipse and a South Node lunar eclipse, and how do you tell which is which?
Great. Yes, I will cover that. So this is a north. These both are South Node lunar eclipses. So we'll start with that. So how you can tell is I'll do that when we get to the actual charts. We'll do this. I think it's the next slide. Let me make a note to not forget about, to show you how it looks on the chart. Okay. But this, I just wanted to show, these are two events that happened around, both around South Node lunar eclipses, speaking to where we're moving away from. And so remember I told you the nodes went in May of last year. Well, on June 5th was the George Floyd murder in Minneapolis. It was within about a week. So it preceded the eclipse, but definitely speaks to the eclipse story of the police. So yeah, it's very interesting. This is what I was able to come up with online, as this is the murder, that the moment that he died, 29 degrees of Scorpio, suggesting, and in mundane astrology, the ascendant talks about the people. And so like something died in not just America, around the world, seeing this horrific event of this man murdered, not moving, but that police officer, with glee, snuffing out his life. That's very Scorpionic. Death, taboo, the shadows. And the fact that it's a fixed descendant also speaks to the fact that, this made lasting changes throughout society. And in fact, the officer is on trial right now for that. And the moon is in the 8th house. That also speaks to the people, and Cancer speaks to the country and nativism in some ways. And so in a lot of ways, I see this event as having like a death of the innocence and of a lot of people in the country. I mean, as a Black woman, I've known that, there were disparities with the way people were treated, people of color treated by the police, but that event was so horrific. It even like shocked me to my core to see something like that happen. Yeah. And then at the insurrection was a couple of weeks after, on January 6th, the December 14th South Node solar eclipse. So a lunar eclipse is when the sun and the moon are opposite each other. And it talks about releasing an old story, or in this case, the big event was that it brought to light this hidden scorpionic issue about the disparity in how people are treated. And with this insurrection, you see that this is when it was first reported that the ascendant and the descendant are on in immutable signs, Gemini and Sagittarius, immutable signs. So the energy is unstable. It also happened at 29 degrees of Aries, so the last degree of the sign. So a concentration of that Aryan martial fighting energy. You know, when I saw what was going on, I was like, oh my God. And then I was like, oh, this is going to be over by, I forget what time it is, 3 o'clock or whatever, when Mars went into Taurus. Like it was almost immediately over when that happened. Sun in the 8th house in Capricorn, death. A police officer was killed. 4 of the rioters, the insurrectionists, were killed. The 9th house to me speaks to it being about them going to the Capitol and Congress, an institution, a big institution, the midheaven, highest point in the sky, Capricorn government. They were trying to overthrow the government. Yeah. And the Mars being in the 4th house of home, but it also can speak to rebels. Wait, where am I? Oh, that's the ones coming up. Sorry. Yeah. Actually, the midheaven was in Aquarius, speaking to rebels trying to overthrow the government. Okay. So, any questions about that before I go on? Gives me a chance to take a breath too. Okay.
No questions yet.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was saying no questions yet on that. Something
Okay.
else after your presentation.
Great. So the eclipses and you in your life, an eclipse can either be a whisper that you barely hear, or it can be an earthquake. Yeah. So typically, like if you look to when big events happened in your life, if you look to like when you got engaged or met your partner, or, you know, had your first child or things like that, started your career, you can look back and look at the eclipse that was the nearest eclipses and see how you were impacted. Yeah, I know I had an eclipse hit me directly on a midpoint that's called the toggle point of your chart. It's the ascendant midheaven midpoint. And when things happen there, it can change your whole life. So I actually had an illness, which thankfully I'm fine, but it changed my whole life for a couple of years, about 19 years ago, in the same sort of cycle that's coming up. So anyway, they can be whispers or earthquakes. The beautiful things can come of them as well. You can, you know, meet the love of your life or get your ideal job or what have you. So you don't know necessarily whether it's going to be good or bad, but you know, some kind of change is most likely coming in your life. So
Actually,
I use, yes?
Sorry, can I make a real quick question, or should I leave it for the end?
No, go ahead.
What happens with the eclipses that were right after you were born, or the ones that happen right before you were born? Like how do they impact your natal chart?
Yeah, so the prenatal eclipses are really meaningful. So it's a good idea to know what your prenatal eclipses are. And then when the nodes go into those signs, they'll probably be more impactful to you, seeing as, and if, you know, the ones that happen at around 19 and 38 and what have you are typically potentially going to be more impactful to you.
Okay, so basically just look more at the ones that we have natally, like the notes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The eclipses as much. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. So a North Node solar eclipse. So a solar eclipse, these are now what we're coming up to. A North Node solar eclipse is when a new start, they can bring events that we did not necessarily plan, but it's a new beginning. So the North Node is what we're moving towards. A solar eclipse speaks to a new moon times 10, speaks to a new start. These are exciting. This is what's coming up on June 10th. They can have new beginnings in terms of your identity or health. So as I mentioned, sometimes, eclipses, and this is another reason they're feared, if they're really close onto some of your personal planets or ascendant, or in your 6th house, they can speak to a health thing potentially. So if you know you're having an eclipse around that area, really, if anything comes up, just go to the doctor and get it taken care of. We live thankfully in a time where we have medicine and that can, that can help us heal. And then they can also speak to, they have like a 1st house flavor, like you seeking personal freedom or your own space or in some area of your life. And then things may come up that need a immediate attention, but it's time for you to consider being enterprising about something. Do you want to, if it's in your 2nd house of finances, do you want to start investing in a new way or start a new business or all kinds of things? If they're in your 4th house of home, do you want to move or redecorate or things like that? Are some things to think about. With a South Node solar eclipse, the South Node, speaking of what we're moving away from, you may have a new start that burns off something from your life that is initiated by someone else. So today on Instagram, I talked about Jennifer Lopez and how that one in December, the South Node solar eclipse spoke to about how she and A-Rod, that relationship was potentially on the outs back then. You can watch it on Instagram if you're interested, because that's got really into that. Now, then as well, this coming season on May 26th, we're having a South Node lunar eclipse. So this is about releasing old stories, burning off what no longer serves you in some area of your life. And this can be more about emotional and your thought process with a lunar eclipse. It can also be a time where you're called to celebrate something with yourself. It can shed light on darkness. I'm predicting that Andrew Cuomo, who's been in big trouble, that he's a Sagittarius. We'll see if he makes it through eclipse season without having to resign, because I bet more is coming up on him with the nursing homes and inappropriately treating his staff, sexually harassing people and all of that. We shall see. Really concerning about the, Dante Wright, who was killed within miles of George Floyd in a police stop. We were starting to see protests. There were riots going on. This is like a mirror of what happened last eclipse season. So I'm really concerned about that. And yeah. There's also a lot of news lately is coming up because we're really close to eclipse season. We're kind of already, I would say we're already kind of in it. There's been a lot of news lately about people, especially at private schools, who are pulling their kids out of schools because they feel like they're being indoctrinated, and all this stuff about cancel culture. So that also speaks to, people rejecting dogmatic views and things like that. Okay.
Question.
Yes.
How do you figure out how the eclipse will affect your chart?
Okay, we're coming up on that.
And then there's one more. Could Pluto be a contributing factor to the eclipse seasons mirroring each other?
Oh, thanks, Victoria. That's my question.
Yes. Yeah. If Pluto is making some kind of aspect to both, yes, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Celeste.
And I
Oh,
also have another question, Celeste. Do lunar eclipses only happen with the south node, and do solar ones only talk about the north node?
no. No, you have both of them. I'll
In
show
each
you.
node. Okay.
I'll show you at the next and the next one.
Perfect.
Yeah. So it also can be a good time because with there's a lunar eclipse, there is total illumination. So it can be a good time to make a public splash or have a celebration, but you can get more than you planned for. With eclipses, the energy can be a bit unstable. It's a huge burst of energy. Yeah, some people don't set intentions when there's a solar eclipse because they feel like it's too much energy and unstable. I still do, but it's a personal preference. So this is something that, you know, people disagree with. It's up to you. So okay, so let me get into the nature of eclipses and how you can see what they are. So this is the North Node solar eclipse that's happening at 19 Gemini on June 10th of this year. So as you see, when you have a solar eclipse or any time of new moon, the sun and the moon stand together at the exact same degree. So you can see they are 19 degrees of Gemini and 47 minutes. Now, the reason we can tell that this is a North Node solar eclipse is because the North Node is at 10 Gemini and it's within 9 degrees of the eclipse. So remember I said that within 18 degrees, that makes it an eclipse when you have a new moon. So that tells you that it's that. Now, the sun crosses the ecliptic twice a year. So opposite in December, we'll have and we remember I talked about December 14th, we had a south node solar eclipse. So on December 14th, there was a new moon in Sagittarius right near the south node. So you have both of them every year. And so with a lunar eclipse, the sun and the moon are at the same exact degree, but opposite each other. So this is what's coming up on May 26th. And so the sun is here at 5 degrees of Gemini in 25 minutes. And the moon is at 5 degrees of Sagittarius and 25 minutes. So they are exactly opposite. And you can see that the south node is right next to the moon. Yeah, so this is a really tight one that's coming up. I am concerned about both of these, but yeah. So last November, we had a north node lunar eclipse where the moon was in Gemini and the sun was in Sagittarius in November. So you have both of them every year. So I hope that's clear. Did that answer the question? Or is there still any question? And as you can see, the moon is within that 12 degrees of the south node. It's only 5 degrees, so that's pretty tight.
May I?
Yes.
So just for trigger reference, we're talking about it obviously referencing the new moon and the full moon.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So a solar eclipse is always a new moon. It's a new moon that has a big burst of energy.
Right.
A lunar eclipse is a full moon that has a big burst of energy.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So for your own life, you don't necessarily have to worry about them being north node or south node, but it does change the flavor of the nature of them, depending on which they are. So they're really not just two types. There's really four types of these types of eclipses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the thing that I'm most, looking at this is what's happening May 26th. We're already seeing some social unrest starting about these two new murders. A 13-year-old as well died with a police encounter. And see how, but I like that you have Jupiter up at the top of the chart, Jupiter, the planet of expansion. But Jupiter can just also make things bigger. So I don't know. When you see things in the 6th and the 12th house, I use Washington, D.C. So that speaks to our country. We're getting ready to go into Taurus season. Taurus season starts tomorrow. And Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus is not just love. It also speaks to our values and money. Uranus is in Taurus, Uranus change. I'm concerned to see what we see about what happens with the finances of the country coming up as the parade of planets moves over Uranus and triggers that hot spot of the Saturn-Uranus squares. And Mars is in the 2nd house of financial institutions. See, I mean, there may be some kind of change. Or something go on with the stock market or something. The moon here in the house of illness. Hopefully that means we're burning off more of the COVID story. Hopefully it's not like some variants coming up, but all this 12th house stuff, 12th house of the house of self-undoing. If people, just start going, starting as a protest to protest injustice, but turning into, riots is really self-undoing for our country, our neighborhoods, and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens with this one.
Celeste,
Yeah.
I have a question about applying this. I think this is maybe what the other the questioner was asking. So I see it's in the 6th house here. The South Node is in the 6th house here. But how do you know? That doesn't mean it's going to be in my 6th house, right? So how do you negotiate it to know where it's going to fall? I understand the degrees in terms of, so I know it's going to be a direct hit on my 0-degree Sagittarius sun sign.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I know what's the house?
So where do you have 5 degrees of Sagittarius in your chart?
Well, my sun sign is at 1, it's like 0 point whatever. So 1 degree, 12th house.
But what house is that?
12th.
So this is going to shine a light on your 12th house. So you're going to have, it's going to be opposite. So the sun will be in your 6th house of health, daily life, chop wood, carry water. So for you, it's going to be about, maybe you want to think about releasing any habits, or if starting some, bring in a new habit to better your health or something, in terms of getting enough sleep or anything like that. If there's anything you want to release.
Okay, so you just it'll just be opposite. I'm just trying to figure out how I can assess how can I look at that and say, well, how's it going to fall in my house?
So you're going to say the sun is going to shine a light on your 6th house of daily health and habits, and it's also like employees, small pets. There's a lot of significations of the 6th house. The moon is going to be in your 12th house of mysticism, prisons, institutions, self-undoing, things like that. So it's going to call for you to burn off something that no longer serves you in this 12th house area.
12th. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. And in June, we're going to have a solar eclipse at 19 degrees of Gemini. So see, they're standing right together. So you can just go look at what house that's in your chart. So for you, it would be, who's just talking, it would be in your 6th house most likely, but it depends what degree your 7th house starts in. So you can look at your chart and see, oh, is it in your 6th house or 7th house, this 19 Gemini?
So question,
And-
so would we lay our chart over these charts to see which houses are?
So what you do is you put your chart in the middle, and then you lay this chart on top of it. So then that will make it line up. Exactly. So when I get to participants, that's exactly what we're going to do. So you can see real time what it looks like to look at how someone's how it will look for someone to have.
And what
Yeah.
about where, I mean, do we look at the node position to figure out where the eclipse is going to affect, or
No.
do we look at some conjunction of the sun and the moon, or where the sun and the moon are?
You look at the sun and the moon,
Okay, not at the node.
not at the nodes.
Because the node can be like in one house and then right next to it, it's a different house already, like in the cusp. And we look then at the sun, right? Or
You look at
moon.
the sun or the, well, and when we were talking about these, we're talking about new moons and full moons. So you look at the moon. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
But the sun shines a light and the moon can be about release. But with a new moon, the sun and the moon are working in concert rather than in opposition. So they're whispering secrets about what you want to bring and grow into your life. And so with the country, there's some kind of new start about financial institutions. Who knows? Maybe this can be something about, there's been a lot of talk about debt, student debt. We'll see if there's some new program or something announced about that. I am concerned about this for many reasons. This June 10th one. June 10th is 4 days before the next Saturn-Uranus square. Saturn-Uranus speaks to structures suddenly and changing, being obliterated, things like that. The last one was in February, and the big story then on that day was about the power in Texas and Oregon and some other places where the power went out. But Texas, it went out for like a week. People died and froze to death, and it was just horrific. But that speaks to Saturn, Uranus. So this is the same week as that. So there's this big burst of energy, and then there's another big burst of energy in that same week. Uranus is right on the people. So it'll affect maybe a lot of us in the country. Mars and Pluto are in opposition. I've been worried about this. Also, Donald Trump's birthday is June 14th. I've been worried about like some kind of big MAGA, attack or something like that around this. So we'll see. I don't know. It's Mars being down at the root speaks to Mars in the 4th house from a mundane perspective, can speak to rebels. It's going to be in Cancer, nativism. And Pluto, opposite Pluto, death and obliteration at the top of the chart, some kind of transformation. So we shall see what happens. Hopefully it won't be anything horrible, or if people are planning something horrible, it will be averted by the authorities, but we shall see. So just to give like a historical perspective. So remember I talked about the Metonic cycle. So that's when the degrees coincide with the events. And I didn't like put all the dates down, but these are things that happened around the summer of these years that corresponded with the same degrees. So Martin Luther King, I Have a Dream speech, which speaks to this releasing Sagittarius South Node stories of having these dogmatic opinions about racism or about about Black people being inferior or what have you. And we're seeing a repeat of this. It's not the same thing, but it rhymes. History rhymes with all the Black Lives Matter stuff, the police, police being called to account for how they treat Black people differently in terms of traffic stops and all of this kind of encounters. The first transmission in 1963 of the Beatles, Pop Go the Beatles on BBC. I mentioned earlier that sometimes a new start can be such a huge burst of energy that the Beatles were like a worldwide sensation. If you watch the videos of women, like little 20-year or teenage girls passing out when they see the Beatles come on the scene. The radio speaks to Gemini communications, so this is a good story to illustrate that. And airplane crashes, so not just in 1963, but there was also an airplane event in 2002, them repeating. So we'll see if any horrific air tragedy happens during this eclipse season, but it did back then. Yeah, so, and in this, it wasn't this summer, but 9/11, the nodes, I believe, were in Gemini and Sag when 9/11 happened, which as well spoke to, a big plane, a horrific plane event. So singer R. Kelly was arrested for, having sex with minors. And yeah, it's different, but, he was very, very popular, a big singer. That I Believe I Can Fly song. That was the song for every graduation and whatnot. But anyway, it brought this to light, the news. South Node, his bad behavior. North Node and Gemini, news came out about what he was doing, and we'll see if there's any big news about someone famous doing something of a similar sort of thing. I mentioned Andrew Cuomo's time may be up. We shall see. And lastly, the Beltway sniper. I don't know if people remember this, but these were the two guys going around DC area, just shooting people again, like I said, and it's, I'm worried about the MAGA stuff. Just indiscriminately killing people using a car, Gemini transportation. It was over 3 weeks. It was just totally indiscriminate. There was no rhyme or reason to the police before they found them about why they were doing it. And I believe the older gentleman, he was Muslim, and it had something to do with his dogmatic opinions about that was why he was doing this, if I recall correctly. So these themes speak to the nodes. So that's a Metonic series, and that speaks to, you can really look in your own chart and see the degree and think about what happened in those years of 1963, if you were even born, and 2002. Yeah. And for the May 26th, the Metonic cycle was the South Node eclipse. So you can look back to 2002 and look at where these degrees are in your chart. There's 5 degrees of Sagittarius, 19 degrees of Gemini, and see what was going on in your life, and that can give you a flavor of what's coming up. So with this South Node eclipse as well, I wanted the lunar eclipse that's coming up on May 26th. So a new story started for us in November of 2019, when there was a Sagittarius new moon, and then around 5 degrees, and then at last summer in August, there was a first quarter moon. So think about last August as well. What came apparent to you in your life, and feel and see if that story, something should be coming in full bloom in May or around this time related to that. So I hope I didn't confuse people too much, but that speaks to the ongoing story. So the Saros series is that series where I was talking about. It lasts over 1,300 years and starts at one of the poles. Bernadette Brady, this is an amazing book for people who are really into astrology. It's called The Eagle and the Lark. It's about predictive astrology. And she went and looked at each of the Saros series, created their birth charts, and talked about the nature of them. And when they happen every 18 years, they speak to the flavor. So even though these eclipses happened, this 19 Gemini eclipse happened 19 years ago for the Metonic cycle, the Saros cycle is different. So there is a different flavor. It's like a different recipe than the other one. And this is how she describes it. She says, and this chart here is the natal chart of the Saros series. So it happened back, the first one happened back October 12th in 1624 at the North Pole. And this 1,300-year period ends in, we'll all be dead in 2868. So it'll keep going. But this speaks to sudden flashes of ideas that seem to have a psychic or unconscious flavor to them. Hunches, visions, and prophetic dreams are the essence. Creative series that should leave you enriched. Consider acting upon your ideas and hunches. So this is a really good time, and I would even start now, even though this solar eclipse is not until June 10th. Really pay attention to your dreams. Really pay attention to things that come to your mind, or intuitions or hunches. Don't necessarily act on them right that minute, but write them down and think about them, cogitate about them, maybe journal about them, because you may get flashes of brilliance that come to you during this eclipse season. I think this is another reason why it is an absolutely amazing time to sign up for Moon Mastery 101. So you can really get in and work with the moon and get in tune with her cycle so that you are in touch with your inner voice to recognize these prophetic dreams and visions and hunches that come to you. Yes. So this was at the North Pole, the whatever GMT stands for. So I just used the chart for London, England for that. So some things that really jumped out about this, that the new moon was right next to Neptune. And so that as well speaks to, I have concerns about all this QAnon stuff, because Neptune, the planet of illusions and delusions, we'll see. This speaking back to my concerns about the solar eclipse and a potential more of a nativistic terrorist attack. Yeah, we'll see. Also, you see this was at 19 degrees Libra. So it's in a trine and an easy relationship with the new moon at 19 degrees Gemini. So air as well speaks to this. And we know that, what is the planet? Saturn is in Aquarius at 19 degrees. So this symbolically makes some kind of grand trine in air. So we'll see if there's an air story around this this eclipse season. The other thing about this that jumped out at me was, this Mercury-Uranus midpoint is on Mars. So Uranus is a big part of the story this year. The big story this year are the Saturn-Uranus square. So in our own lives, this can speak to these intuition and insights and visions, but being next to Mars, it also concerns me about people taking big actions. Mars is next to Jupiter in terms of doing Uranian things. So that's another reason I was a little concerned about the terrorism, and Chiron, the wounded healer, being in Pisces disease in the 4th house. So it could speak to rebels causing disease. Hopefully there's not going to be anything insane. Let's just focus on it to be a creative series that should leave you enriched. But we'll see what happens. This is all just intuition. So this just is the 12 houses. So when you look at your chart and you see where these things are falling in your chart, the eclipses, they give you an idea of what's going to happen for you. In the effort to save time, I'm not going to go through each of these. I will be hosting a webinar for the full moon and next week, but I'll also do free webinars for the eclipses, the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse, where we'll get into more detail about what it means per sign for people. But just going to save time and not get into that. We'll do that with specific people when we do their charts. So Vicki, are there any questions, or anybody?
Anybody can feel free to ask their question that they have.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you talked about the changes that will occur during the North Node solar eclipses and the South Node lunar eclipses. What about the South Node solar eclipses and the North Node lunar eclipses? Is it the same or different?
They have a bit of a different flavor. So those were last year. And then there'll be new ones coming up towards the end of this year. So a South Node solar eclipse is when like a new thing will happen, but it may be in your life, but it may be initiated by someone else. So you can watch my Instagram live I did this morning. I talked specifically about that. So that'll give you some more insights to that. Whereas a lunar eclipse that's near the North Node, which was what happened last November, you could burn something off to start a new story in your own life. So you can think back, if you can feel like anything that happened, those were at, I believe, 8 degrees Gemini was the lunar eclipse, and 20 degrees that Sagittarius was the solar eclipse last year. So we're kind of wrapping up that season and starting a new. So there are different degrees, but they're in the same areas of your chart. But they speak to more having a new start with the North Node solar eclipses, like your life going somewhere new, and then really burning off with the lunar eclipse what no longer serves you emotionally in that area of the chart where that Sagittarius, 5 degrees Sagittarius is. And my assistant will put the slides. It may take a day or two. She'll put the slide deck in YouTube. So you'll be, but everybody on here, you'll get an email with the slide deck. So you'll be able to look at these slides and review this material. Oh, any other questions? Great. I think it'll make more sense as well when we start talking about people's charts. So, Moon Mastery 101. So, apologies for people who are hearing about this for the third time. But if you want to sign up, the link is at the top of this, top of the comments, and you can sign up now. Yes. So, It'll be 6 interactive classes taught live on Zoom. You're going to learn the basics of astrology, but I'm really focusing in on your astrological signature, especially your big 3, so that you can really get in touch with your moon sign and help you make the subconscious conscious. So to give you more insight into yourself and why you make decisions the way you do and how you can reduce stress and increase your productivity, and get a more intimate connection with your inner voice, as well as your divine guidance, as well as working with the daily cycles to just understand yourself better. It's for personal development. You can uncover your hidden talents that maybe you didn't know you had and see more clearly some of your blind spots. There'll be a VIP community. I love to build communities so people can ask questions. You can make new friends, share your insights, and experience astrology in action. Like with what we're going to be doing soon, we're going to be talking live. It's going to be live and interactive about people whose participants' charts. We'll go deep into the moon and her phases and about planning with the moon. And you will receive a framework for intention setting, and you can have a personal plan for 6 months so that you can, set in motion a way of working with the cycles and keep it going, to continue to enrich your life. So working with the moon gives you a flashlight. Oh, in the world, to help illuminate the dark spaces. If you take this course, it will help you pivot from seeking outside validation to really trusting your inner wisdom and guidance. You'll learn astrology. It'll be fun and insightful. People will also have the opportunity to work with oracle cards, to help with this as well. And working with these cycles will help you reduce your stress, increase your joy, achieve your goals, and build better relationships with your loved ones, your colleagues, whoever, the neighbors, whoever. And I promise by the end of the course, you will have a new perspective to make more conscious decisions, improve your relationships, and achieve your goals. And the personal framework will help you to advance your journey. So some of the bonuses, you're going to get a set. I have a graphic designer who's making these gorgeous moon phase and zodiac sign altar cards. So you'll have a card that you can change as the moon changes signs. So just to remind you what energy is here and work with that. I'm going to be also sending moon memos, little voice memos about what the moon is doing. The moon changes signs every 2.5 days. So you'll get a little recording as well every couple days. You'll get 20% off your choice of a reading or a coaching program. I also do 3-month coaching programs. As I mentioned, I have over 20 years in experience with corporate experience. I've done management as well as mentoring. So I can help you, especially with if you want to make strides in your career. We can work one-on-one for either 3 months or a year together. If you sign up before April 20th, you're going to get a beautiful chart from Solar Fire. It'll have your chart. It'll have your the modulus, which speaks to how the energy flows through your chart, which talks about how you make decisions. I'm also going to put on it your like the fixed stars and the parts, Arabic parts that are around when you were born. You'll see whether you have planets that are out of bounds, as well as you will get your prenatal eclipses will be on there as well. So you'll get this really nice, beautiful custom chart for you that you can print out and do what have you with. Now, we've already have 8 students signed up, so there are 4 more students will be able to receive hot takes on their natal chart, which I will record and send you a Zoom with things that jump out at me. So if you want to sign up, go ahead and sign up for that. I recommend you jump on that because that's a limited time bonus, as well as before April 20th is for the chart. And what's today? April 20th is Tuesday. Yes. The cart will close on April 26th. So that's the following Monday. So you have now until April 26th to decide if you're someone who likes to wait to the last, to the last minute. I want you to make sure it's right for you. If you have any questions, you can email me at celeste@astrologybyceleste.com. I want everybody to have an enriching experience and a good time.
Celeste, can I ask a quick question from Zena?
Yes, you may.
She says, how do we send you our chart to look at? And also the cost, please.
So when you sign up for the program, there'll be an area where you put in your information so that I can do the chart for you. The cost of the program, it's an $860 value, but the investment to yourself is a one-time payment of $440 or two payments of $260. Now, space is limited. There's still space right now, but yeah, you might want to keep in mind that space is limited. So if you are interested, then to come on. Yeah, the link is in the comments, but of course you can go to my Astrology by Celeste website and it will be there. Any other questions? Okay, great. So these are two resources that for people who are really interested in eclipses and learning more. The Eagle and the Lark is great by Bernadette Brady. This is more advanced, so you need to have a solid foundation on it. I'd recommend a solid foundation on astrology before getting to this book. It's more about, the transits and what's going on in your life ongoing. And it's not just about eclipses. She talks about transits. She talks about like solar returns, all the planets returns and all kinds of stuff. It's really, really good. And she describes the Saros series of each one based on the natal chart. So that gives you an additional level of understanding of how it will impact your chart, not just by the degree. So you use those together, the Metonic cycle and the Saros series. Lunar Shadows 3 is a book by Dietrich Pessin. This is an amazing book. It's pretty dense, but it all goes into everything about eclipses and the moon phases. And she's the one who recognized that the moon phase families, that the moon goes to the same spot every 9 months. So that there's a new moon at a degree, then 9 months later, there's a first quarter moon. So it's like a baby is birthed from the new moon to the first quarter moon. So something is visible in the world. 9 months after that, you have all is illuminated. You can celebrate. There's a clearer story. And 9 months after that, like the rewards and the consequences are coming in. And then, you let it go and start a new cycle. So that's a bigger cycle. Like if you're writing a book or starting a business or something big, 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 those bigger cycles are really good to work with. So when you get the slides, you'll be able to click these links and they'll take you to my Amazon affiliate links and you can purchase them if you want. I use Solar Fire software. So where to find me? Astrology by Celeste, my website. You can subscribe and it's on the homepage of my website. Subscribe for my newsletter, gives moon phase guidance. I also send out goodies and updates to people. You can take Moon Mastery 101. You can sign up right from there. You can book a reading, an event. I'll also do events where, like, if you want to bring some friends or family together and talk about, their charts and stuff, we can do that. Or you can sign up for one of my coaching programs. I am on Instagram Live every Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. And then there's a lot on my, I'm building up more my YouTube channel. But whether or not you take Moon Mastery, I'm so thankful for you to be part of my community. You're welcome to come to any of my free events, or I'm also on Hey Hero. So if you want to just ask me a question, heyhero.com. I'll just answer a question about your chart or something like that. So great. I think that's everything about that. So we can jump into charts in a minute. So any questions before we jump into charts? Great. So if you'd like to have your chart looked at, oh, here, okay, Vicky starts, people are putting their birth information in. So start, oh, please, if I've already done you at one of the others, let's let other people have a chance.
I will say Natalie had a question from your last reading that
Okay.
I think she felt she didn't get a chance for you to answer.
Okay, so give me Natalie's information. Do you want to text it to me?
Natalie, just let me see. I don't think she put it in here yet. If she can,
You know what? I can look.
let me see. Is Natalie still here?
Yeah, Natalie, speak up if you're here and want me to do your chart. Is it Natalie from the Bronx?
I believe so. And
Okay, well, maybe if she's here, she can speak up. Otherwise, who's next? And if you were here last time and I didn't get to you, but you gave me your information, speak up now because I have
Yes, I'm here.
Who is this?
Natalie.
Okay, Natalie, you're from the Bronx?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to do you first. Okay, let me share my screen and I'll do as many people as I can. Okay. Okay. So, and double check, Natalie. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
If I do anything wrong, let me know.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, so Natalie, this is you. So you've got a sun in Libra, a moon in Taurus, both ruled by Venus. Very nice. And then a Leo rising. I love that. Oh, and you have your Saturns at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So you recently had, well, your first Saturn return was last March, but Saturn went into Aquarius with Jupiter on December 21st last year, the solstice. Did you feel like a big change?
Well, last year I started working from home March 23rd, and I've been working from home since. Other people have had to go back because they perform poorly at home, but I've been doing fine there. So I don't have to come into the hospital unless I absolutely have to. So that's been easier for me, not not having to commute and avoiding COVID as far as that is concerned.
Okay. Has anything else big happened in your life?
Since March, nothing that I can note.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to pull you up.
I've been meaning to go to come to you for hot takes, but I just have to sit down and make a list of things I have to do. I was supposed to be home today, but I'm out in the street.
Okay. Well, I'm really interested. Well, look at this. Uranus is getting ready to come up to your midheaven. So you might want to think about your career. Do you want to make changes to your job? Because there's going to be the potential and energy for that to happen.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, so this solar eclipse is in your 10th house of your career. So there's potentially you could do a new start with your career. And the
I know you were mentioning next year, from now to next year, something's moving in to that house as well.
I'm not sure if I heard you. Say that again. Yeah. Well, I'll just talk to you since I think you're out and about. So just know that you have energy to create a new start in your career if you want. You may find things are burning off about your home and your family, or releasing some kind of old story about that, or in your most private self, or letting something go about some old story. So that is how you're being impacted by these eclipses.
That sounds great.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, and yeah, really think about how you want to make changes.
I have
Great.
been definitely, I've definitely been, writing things down and brainstorming. So I've had time to do that.
Okay, good. Well, thank you, Natalie. I'm going to move on because I'm going to try to be quicker. I get
Thank you.
wrapped up and so excited about people's charts. I want to do more people today. Okay, thanks so much. So I know, yeah, Anahi, you were here last time, so we're going to do you. August 5th. That was our mother's birthday.
I noticed that.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I think it was my cousin.
You have some kind of echo.
Yeah, I just turned it off. Is that better?
Yes. Say that again. Say, what were you saying?
So last time you read my cousin's chart, we were together.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Okay. Did I type that in right?
Yes.
Okay. So Anahi, am I saying your name right?
It's Anai, so it's a silent H, but that's close.
Oh, Anai. Oh, that's so pretty. Okay. So you're a sun in Leo. Oh, yes. Sun in Leo, but in a water house. Interesting. Moon at 29 degrees of Taurus. And next to Jupiter. That's really nice. So are sometimes you emotionally, you just happy for no reason?
Oh yeah. I'm just like,
yeah, that's a gift. That's beautiful that you have your moon next to Jupiter. And have that Taurus moon. The moon is exalted in Taurus. So there's this like emotional support for your moon. Although it's in conjunct Uranus, so your moon may be, your emotions may at times get a little changing or volatile. And you're a Sagittarius rising, so Jupiter rules your whole chart. So, yeah, how nice. Yeah, so you're a Sag rising, so these eclipses are on your ascendant, yourself, and the other, your descendant. Interesting. What do you do for a living?
I'm a cannabis consultant, so I do licensing and compliance.
Ah.
So I work on big projects with a lot of different people.
Okay. And then we want to look at you with this. I'm just going to look at people with the solar eclipse. Okay. Yeah. So these are happening in, it's going to have both a first and a seventh, first and seventh house feel, but also you may feel like your sixth house of daily life and your 12th house of, I call this the health the health axis. So a new start in your sixth house of daily life speaks to you. You know, what do you want to do to bring into your life to bring more mental and physical health? So better habits. This is the chop wood, carry water house. So you may find yourself feeling like you need to make new starts and release things about stress, anxiety, any kind of self-undoing that you want to release old stories. It also could have more to do with yourself and your partners. it's kind of, it could be either one of those. Have you noticed new stuff happening in those areas of your life?
Definitely. I feel like I'm in a lot of transitions
Mm.
and I have a lot of opportunities in front of me. So right now I feel like I just need to figure out what I want to do. But, I really want to focus on continuing to grow personally because I've kind of neglected that in the past.
Ah, yeah. Well, you're certainly welcome to take the Moon Mastery program if you so choose. But yeah, focusing on your personal development would be really good for you right now. You've got a lot of energy to make a new start. The sixth house also can just speak to your day job. So maybe you want to make changes there as well. So good. Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, Kaylin, did I do you last time?
You did. I had typed that in the chat before you mentioned you wanted to do new people. So yeah, you can skip me.
Okay. I think Christy Bishop was here last time and I didn't get to her.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So Christy, check, make sure this is right.
Okay.
Is your birth time and everything right?
Yes.
Oh, look at this. Wow. So you have Sun in Sagittarius,
Yeah.
Moon at 0 degrees of Cancer, and the Moon is in Cancer today, and you're a Gemini rising. So you have the opposite of Anahi, where she was a Sag rising, you're a Gemini rising. And you have these amazing chart patterns. So you have a grand trine in air to Jupiter is directly trine your ascendant and Pluto. So you have a well of power within you. Do you communicate a lot communicate for your career?
Yeah. I'm a death and grief doula, so.
You're a what doula?
Death and grief.
Oh, wow. That's that Pluto.
Yeah.
So you help people, you hold them space when they are going through tragedies and trauma. That is so beautiful. And you have that Moon in Cancer that gives you this nurturing quality that and having Saturn here next to your Moon. Saturn is kind of like restriction, and it puts a box around your emotions. So that probably as well helps you hold space for people going through all this trauma. Wow. Really amazing what you do. Yeah, and you have a yod, like a finger of God, pointing at your Moon. So it speaks to your Moon and your Saturn, essentially. So it speaks to like you having a calling or a purpose. Where did you feel like you kind of had no choice, like you were really called to do this work?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, how beautiful. Thank you for what you do. Not everybody, not many people can be there for people towards it, at their hardest moments. Okay. So let's look at your chart. So yeah, you're having a new start to you. It's really interesting. So I'm so glad you raised your hand. This is a great opportunity to show people something, especially people who were here for the North Node one. So
Okay.
Christy has natally her South Node in Gemini, but right now the North Node is in Gemini. So what this means is she has recently had or not, it was last year, it was exact, but the North Node came to her South Node. So what that does is it kind of bumps you up against your comfort zone. Like people may have come into your life that showed you the shadow sides of Gemini, or of what you maybe wanted to release from that story, in order to help you grow on your karmic journey. So you may want to think about last summer, who you met, who came into your life, and think about, and it could be even after that, that's kind of triggered your growth through that story. But now there's like all this energy for some kind of new start on your path, because the North Node will be on your ascendant at the eclipse. So that as well speaks to really a new start. Is there anything new you're trying to bring into your life?
Like everything. I'm like,
well, write your list. Really have intentions. Move forward with intentions for this.
yeah.
Really.
Yeah, because there was a big death like 2 years ago. That's why I moved forward into this death and grief work. So really, literally everything is brand new in my life.
Ah, yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Big transitions. Pluto moved into your 9th house last year. So really you're transforming yourself out in the world. And you're also having, let me erase this. You're also having Saturn, the planet of discipline. It's it crystallizes things in our life, coming right up to your midheaven. Now, it won't happen till the end of the year, but you may start to feel it because the Saturn-Uranus square is right up at your midheaven. You have Jupiter, the planet of expansion, is in your 10th house of career. You have so much energy to grow your career. You had a Jupiter return this year. Jupiter crossed your midheaven. So if you work with this energy intentionally, you can really build what you want.
Okay, perfect. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, really exciting. And yeah, with the lunar eclipse, think about, what you want to release and how you partner with people, or it's actually going to be in your 6th house. If there are any old stories you want to release. Also, whenever you have these big pops of energy in your 1st house, it's a good idea, take extra care of your health. And if anything comes up, go to the doctor. But looking at your chart, it's all about you growing growing in the world, or bringing to you whatever it is you want. So wishing you the best.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Celeste. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, Isabel.
Hey, how are you? Celeste, you looked at my chart at the end of the Aries moon workshop. So if you want to bump me to the end, I don't mind waiting at all.
Okay, thank you, Isabel. I don't know if we'll get to you today, but another time. Thank you so much. Okay, sure. Andrea.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm so good. I put March 15th, but I'm actually March 18th. That was a typo. Sorry.
Okay. No worries. I'm glad you caught it. And now is 9:30 p.m. exact or close, or do you know?
It's close. It's an approximate.
Okay. Uh-oh, I'm already starting to lose it. Misspelling. I need to put Canada. Okay. British. Wait,
Yeah.
it's
British Columbia.
okay. Why doesn't it say that? Did I spell it right? COS?
COMOX.
Oh,
Co-
oh, okay. I spelled it
Oh,
wrong.
That's yeah.
CO.
COMOX.
Okay.
Not very well known. So
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that. Oh, okay. It found it. Okay. So since your time is approximate, your rising sign may be wrong. You may be a Libra rising. Because the degrees of the rising sign change every 4 minutes. So if you're even 8 minutes off, it could be you can be wrong. But you are definitely a sun in Pisces and a moon in Aries. So you were born soon after a full moon. So you have
I was born a few hours after
eclipse.
After an eclipse, yeah.
Yeah, because we can see that. So eclipses are even more impactful for you, especially when we move into the Pisces Virgo axis, because yeah, you were born near an eclipse. Wow. Yes. And what else did I want to say? So have you thought about whether you think you're a Scorpio rising? Have you?
Yeah, like it I don't, in some ways I understand it fits, in some ways it doesn't. Like, I feel like it fits more in terms of like Plutonian themes throughout my life, but I don't know if I really identify with the Scorpio archetype in that place of the ascendant and how I move through the world. But I'm not sure if that's just because I don't understand it very well. But I think of Scorpio as much more reserved, and I'm not. Like, I'm much more of like of a warm, friendly, extroverted, excited about everything, happy person. So, and that might be.
I think you're a Libra rising. Yeah. Yeah, that's more Libra rising. Like Scorpio rising, you may be like a little more secretive. Or like, do people ever say, "Oh, you're really intense"?
Yeah, the people tell me I'm intimidating all the time.
Ah, that's Scorpio. Well, you may want to get your chart rectified at some point.
Okay.
But yeah. But either way, you may have Pluto in your first house, which speaks to people, you having an intensity and a power that, people can pick up on. That's cool. Are you an artist of any sort?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, with that yeah, because you have your sun in the 5th house and the North Node in this 5th house and the sign of Pisces. So to me, that screams artist. What kind of artist?
Well, I'm trained as a graphic designer, though now I work more marketing and communications, but I do everything. I paint, I draw, I sculpt, I bookbind, I cook. I'm kind of like a constant creator all the time.
Ah.
So if it has a purpose or not, it just needs to come out.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, this is a big eclipse for you in that it's in your 8th house. So it may be a lot more internal for you. The 8th house is the basement. It's the house of sex, death, and transformation. But it's where we keep our shadows, and like you may have a new start where you want to work on really looking internally at all of those stuff, bring it up to the surface and working with it. Or it could be like you get a bunch of money. I would recommend maybe play the lotto. You've got Jupiter on your Mercury. So maybe remember when I was talking about how this eclipse is about inspiration and visions, and really you're being triggered very closely, like on how you think. Neptune, the planet of spirituality and creativity is right on your North Node. So like you could create something that builds a lasting legacy. Also could be about relationships. Are you married?
No.
Are you single?
Dating.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it could be some change about relationship. Uranus is on your Venus. Yeah, I think this is a big impactful one for you. So it'll be interesting to see what comes into your life. Yeah.
That this is it's kind of a reflection of what happened last year, is correct, right? Like the eclipse from last year. Because I know the eclipse just before Christmas was insanely intense for me. Like I kind of didn't function for 2 weeks almost. But it was really insanely transformational, but a really, really big internal transformation for me, I would say. So this is exciting, but it's a little nerve-wracking at the same
time. Well, see, so that one was at 23 degrees of Sagittarius, which was a square. So in a point of tension to your North Node Sun combination. So yeah, that was a lot of energy to impact you.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And the second house is the house of values. It's a house of resources. So yeah, were you questioning your values a lot?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was essentially a moment of kind of downloading every it was a bit about like relationships and relating to people, but kind of this massive download of sort of everything in every relationship I've had that I've done wrong and trying to rectify that and like looking at it, and it just kind of all this stuff coming out, and then coming out the other end of it, like going like, I need to start looking for like grace, forgiveness, love, opening, that kind of a thing, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense, because in November, there was the lunar eclipse. So where the sun was in Sagittarius and the moon was at 8 Gemini. So this was in your house, the 8th house of what we're talking about, the 8th house, the basement. So you did all that evaluation. You did all of that evaluation, and it was in a square with how you think and communicate. So it was very mental. It was very internal. Last year, Venus was in Gemini, went retrograde in your 8th house. So yeah, last year was a really big time for you to really think about how you related to people. So yeah, that totally makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. So now you have the energy to make a new story here and heal old wounds, because you have Chiron, the wounded healer here. So really good energy for you to work with.
Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. Yes. So then we have Anario. Did I say that right?
I messaged you that you could skip Inario. She said she had a lot of background noise.
Oh, okay. Sparrow.
Yeah, hi.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can, Sparrow.
Oh,
I see
good.
there's another question. You're having a birthday right next to the solar eclipse.
I know.
Okay. Okay. You're in Portland, Oregon.
And remind me, when was the last solar eclipse again? That should be sort of like
December 14th.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so did I put all your stuff in right, Sparrow?
May 26th, 1994, 4:05 a.m., Portland, Oregon. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. So someone asked, can you teach us how to figure out which house these eclipses are in. So what I'll do with Sparrow is I'll demonstrate that for you. So what we're talking about is the solar eclipse at 19 Gemini. So you would look, depending on what software you get your chart from, but you're looking for the house where 19 Gemini is, and the numbers go up this way, so counterclockwise. So you see how this is 4 Gemini, so that means 5 Gemini would be inside this house. So when we look, we'll see, I'm telling you, this stuff is incredible. So we just worked on Andrea, who had the opposite. She had she had Gemini on her 8th house and Sag on her 2nd house. So Sparrow gives us an opportunity to see what happens when it's the opposite. So Sparrow's 2nd house is in Gemini versus her 8th house being in Sagittarius. And the 2 people before had they were 1st and 7th house. I'm telling you, my guides are here helping today. So, Sparrow's really good because she's a Gemini sun, a Sagittarius moon, and a Taurus rising. So she was born near a full moon. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Which full moon? Does it say?
Let's see. Let me see. Let me reports. Oh, and you have Venus and Mars out of bounds. So Stephen Forrest wrote an article about that gives you a Uranian flavor to how you take action or how you like to partner. So yeah, you were in the full moon phase. So it should have been a full moon in Sagittarius. Yeah, you can go back and look at an ephemeris around your birth date to see which one.
Thank you. And
yeah.
do you mind if I ask, like, Uranian flavor, what would be like maybe a synonym for that?
So Uranus is like doing things your own way. So when you have a planet out of bounds, it means that it's past the declination of the sun, which represents our will, our essence, our ego. So it means that the planet like kind of answers to itself. So you may do, having Mars and Venus out of bounds, you do relationships differently. Like you may have no interest whatsoever in the white picket fence and the dogs and the kids, or if you do have an interest in that stuff, you still there may be something different about how you take action in the world. It may not have anything to do with relationships, but or how you relate in friendship and things with others. Does that connect at all?
Oh, absolutely. 100% resonates very deep in all regards, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Stephen Forrest wrote a great article. It's called Out of Bounds. You can look up Out of Bounds Moon or Out of Bounds Planets. I think he goes through all of them. So I think it'll connect for you. You can just Google that. But you have this beautiful grand trine in water. So your Saturn, your Jupiter, and your Venus are all in water signs and close enough to be connecting. So that gives you an ability to emotionally on the high road, like you can connect into your emotions well. On the low road, you would get into emotional loops where you find it hard to break free from them.
Yeah, I'd say both of those.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you ever want to get a reading, there's ways that you can kind of break out of that loop using some of the other stuff in your chart. Yeah. You've got a cool chart, but it's a gift to have that, but you may need to work with it. So let's see. Let's look at your eclipses. me see. Let's see. So, like I said, you've got a new start in your second house of values. It can speak to personal resources. It can speak to how you make money, and burning off old stories in the 8th house or the basement, or releasing things about that. Does that connect at all with you or your experiences?
Yeah, I mean, trying to think. I know that there's definitely going to be a lot of changes in pretty soon, like after the summer. I don't know if like that'll still have any sort of eclipse effect, but I've decided that I will be starting a new career in addiction counseling. And so, but before that, you know, I'm getting new roommates and we're sort of, you know, figuring out, you know, like how, I don't know, just the whole new lifestyle and that. And I'm sure that a change in values will come with that. And I know that I've been like really wanting to go and out to the protests with my friends and stuff, and really commit to community and building healthy community, and yeah, burning off old stories is something I've been working on, I feel like, for this whole year, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good. Well, this the lunar eclipse is really impactful for you as well, because it's right you know, it's right on the sun. It's right around the time of your birthday. And you may have been born during an eclipse. Yeah, because the sun, yeah, you were born at a full moon. Yeah, you were born during an eclipse. Oh, wait,
Wow.
no, I'm sorry. I need to swap. Sorry. I have
No worries.
the sun is, you're on the inside now. The eclipse is on the
Okay.
outside now. Okay. Yeah, but they're in neighboring signs. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, releasing something. And yeah, I can see you like with the Sagittarius stuff about bringing all this things about inequities with the police to light. Yeah. That
Yeah,
may be something that because you have Jupiter and Saturn in the house of groups and humanitarian ideals. So that maybe you're feeling like you need to take part in that.
definitely 100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I hope that was helpful, Sparrow.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And it looks like we have just a couple more people, Vicky, and that is enough. I'm starting to lose it. Now, Hope, have I done you before?
Yes, the last workshop with the nodes. Thank you, though. It was wonderful.
Oh, you're welcome. Let me go to Abigail. Abigail, have I done you or no?
Not yet.
Okay, so we're gonna do Abigail and Yvonne and call it a day. Great. Oh, I'm so happy to get to everyone on this list. Okay.
I don't think I missed anybody, but if I did, just put it in the chat.
That's enough, Vicky. I'm sorry. If anybody wants what it is not put it in yet, we'll do it next time. I'm starting to fade.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, which county?
Allegheny, I believe.
Oh, good. So I did a Hey Hero for you. Did you like it?
I did very much. Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, good. Yay. Yeah, I recognize. I was like, this town looks familiar.
Yeah, not well known.
Great. Well, thanks for coming, Abigail. And so your sun is in Leo, your moon is in Taurus, and you are a Pisces rising. Yes. And I think I might have, oh, you recently had your Saturn return. So you're in your Saturn return cycle. So yeah, and you have your moon, this T square, which releases from your moon. Now I remember looking at your chart. Let me pull up the solar eclipse. Let's see. Okay. Oh, so it's in your 4th house. So you have a new start in the area. And this is maybe internal, or maybe you want to move, or maybe a baby or something like that. Does that speak to anything that's going on yet? Or career stuff?
Career, yeah, I think starting a new business this year, and also probably intending to get married to my life partner this year. And he has a daughter that I've been developing more of a relationship with. I've never kind of seen myself in a parental role or intended to have children. So that's definitely an interesting growth point for me, is to, the way we're building our family together. So that has been big this year. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So you have a new start at your foundation in home and in family. I like how Venus, which can speak to a daughter or a young girl, you'll be her stepmother, is in your the house of children. So to me, this speaks to that you'll be able to connect and nurture this person. Yeah, Pluto, this is the house of groups. No, never mind. That's not relevant. Yeah, so you have a lot of energy for this new start, and you may just have to burn off parts of how you perceived your calling, or not your calling, but perceived your reputation in the world of being childless. Yeah. To let that go. But yeah, so in December, the solar eclipse was in your 10th house of career. So it totally makes sense that you're starting a business this year and you're taking action in your daily life. Mars is here in order to bring a new business to life. Yeah. So that totally makes sense. And you're changing, Uranus is in your 2nd house of personal finances, changing how you make money.
Yeah.
Very cool. Great. Well, thank you for joining, Abigail. And thank you so much for your Hey Hero question.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You are very welcome. Okay, Yvonne. It's you, and then I'll answer questions, and then we'll call it a day.
Yes. You've been very generous today with your insights.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Here you are. Okay. So you are a Libra sun, a Scorpio moon, and a Cancer rising. Ah, nice. So water and air. Oh, and you have a yod to your midheaven. Do you feel like you have a calling?
Yes, most of my life I have. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do?
I'm trying. Well, I'm retired educator and been working in the arts to see how the arts and education can be incorporated to help open kids up for learning.
Oh, this is so great. So I asked about a calling or feeling like your life was fated because this green line, you have what's called a yod. It's a chart pattern. It's pointing towards where you meet the world in Pisces. That speaks to creativity. You also have two
Okay.
planets in the 5th house that speaks to creativity. You said you're a teacher, your moon here, teaching children. That also speaks to what you're doing. Yeah. It's like you are on your path. Your sun being next to Neptune, even though you're a Libra, that gives you're a Pisces in disguise.
Yeah.
So let's look at the solar eclipse. And then we're going to swap this. So the solar eclipse is in your 12th house. So we had someone earlier where it was in their 6th house. So the 12th house speaks to, this may be a time where you need to be more, well, you said you were retired, so you need to be more internal. You may want to spend more time with yourself or work somehow with an institution in some way. But it's going to be more, I think these are going to be more internal.
Okay.
For you. It's really important for you to take good care of your health, or if anything comes up, just go to the doctor and get it taken care of. Because they're in your 6th house, 12th house axis.
Okay.
Which can speak to physical health as well as mental health, daily life and daily habits. If there's anything you need to get rid of or declutter, this is a good cycle to do that with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah. So that's with you. So yeah, more internal, maybe more subconscious, but yeah, good to know that there's this new energy coming in. It's not hitting any of your planets directly, but let's see. There's a nice trine to how you think and communicate. So yeah, there's a good time to, like I was talking about earlier, the sudden insights. Yeah.
Yes.
Another reason I said really, take any health stuff seriously is the lunar eclipse is going to be on your Chiron, the wounded healer. So just if anything comes up, just take care of it.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's good. I'm taking your course.
Yes, it is, Yvonne. It's wonderful. Yes. I'm so excited to have you.
I'll be delighted to be there.
Yeah. We could see the insights come in during the course. Yes. Wonderful. Well, wonderful.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, I love how you're all snuggled up with a blanket, Vicki. And Coco is still there. Great. Well, thank you everyone for coming. Does anyone have any more questions before we get off? I guess I'm going to have to just make these things 2 hours long because it seems like that's what they last. If you would like to sign up for the Moon Mastery program, please do. You can also book a reading on my website, or like Abigail did, just ask me a question on Hey Hero for hot takes. And thank you for the comments. Oh, wonderful. I'm glad people enjoyed it. And yeah, I'll see you. I'll be going live on Instagram this week, pulling cards for people. So if you see me, come on, you may want to join. And then, yeah, we'll be back next Sunday for the full moon in Scorpio. So have a beautiful rest of the day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.